Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Sunday delivered some of the Biden administration's strongest public criticism yet of Israel's conduct of the war in Gaza, saying Israeli tactics have meant a horrible loss of life of innocent civilians, but failed to neutralize Hamas leaders and fighters and could drive a lasting insurgency. In television interviews, Blinken underscored that the United States believes Israeli forces should get out of Gaza, but also is waiting to see credible plans from Israel for security and governance in the territory after the war. Hamas has re-emerged in parts of Gaza, Blinken said, and heavy action by Israeli forces in the southern city of Rafah risks leaving America's closest Mideast ally holding the bag on an enduring insurgency. He said the US has worked with Arab countries and others for weeks on developing credible plans for security, governance, rebuilding in Gaza, but we haven't seen that come from Israel. We need to see that too. Blinken also said as Israel pushes deeper into Rafah in the south, a military operation may have some initial success, but risks terrible harm to the population without solving a problem that both of us want to solve, which is making sure Hamas cannot again govern Gaza. More than 1 million Palestinians have crowded into Rafah in the hope of refuge as Israel's offensive pushed across Gaza. Israel has said the city also hosts 4 battalions of Hamas fighters. Israel's conduct of the war, Blinken said, has put the country on the trajectory potentially to inherit an insurgency with many armed Hamas fighters, or if it leaves a vacuum filled by chaos, filled by anarchy and probably refilled by Hamas. We've been talking to them about a much better way of getting an enduring result, enduring security. Blinken also echoed for the first time publicly by a US official the findings of a new Biden administration report that was submitted to the US Congress on Friday, which said Israel's use of US-provided weapons in Gaza likely violated international humanitarian law. The report also said wartime conditions prevented American officials from determining that for certain in specific airstrikes. Blinken stated when it comes to the use of weapons, concerns about incidents where, given the totality of the damage that's been done to children, women, men, it was reasonable to assess that in certain instances Israel acted in ways that are not consistent with international humanitarian law. Blinken cited the horrible loss of life of innocent civilians. Blinken spoke to Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant on Sunday, reiterating the long-standing US opposition to what is now the growing Israeli offensive in Rafah, given the toll on civilians there. Blinken urged Gallant to allow humanitarian workers to bring aid into Gaza and distribute it. Israel's offensive into Rafah has shut down one of the 2 main border crossings into the territory for a week, and most operations have stopped at the other one after it was targeted by a Hamas rocket attack. 7 months of fighting and Israeli restrictions on aid deliveries already have led to famine in the north of Gaza. Aid organizations say the now nearly total cut-off of food, medicine and fuel and the disruption from the Rafah offensive have meant that humanitarian operations across Gaza are on the brink of collapse. Biden's National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, in a call with his Israeli counterpart, raised concerns about a military ground operation in Rafah and discussed alternative courses of action that would ensure Hamas is defeated everywhere in Gaza. Hanegri confirmed Israel is taking US concerns into account, said the White House. There are increasing tensions between Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu about how the war has been conducted, and also domestic tensions about US support for Israel, with protests on US college campuses and many Republican lawmakers saying Biden needs to give Israel whatever it needs. The issue could play a major role in the outcome of November's presidential election in the US. Biden recently said in an interview that his administration would not provide weapons that Israel could use for an all-out assault in Rafah. The exodus of Palestinians from Gaza's last refuge has accelerated as Israeli forces have pushed deeper into the southern city of Rafah. Israel also pounded the territory's devastated north, where some Hamas fighters have regrouped in areas the military said it had cleared months ago. Rafah is considered Hamas's last stronghold. Some 300,000 of the more than 1 million civilians sheltering there have fled the city following evacuation orders from Israel, which says it must invade to dismantle Hamas and return scores of hostages taken from Israel in the 7th October attack that sparked the war. Neighbouring Egypt has issued its strongest objection yet to the Rafah offensive, saying it intends to formally join South Africa's case at the International Court of Justice, alleging that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, an accusation that Israel rejects. The Foreign Ministry statement cited the worsening severity and scope of the Israeli attacks against Palestinian civilians. United Nations Human Rights Chief Volker Turk said in a statement that he cannot see how a full-scale invasion of Rafah can be reconciled with international humanitarian law. Gaza has been left without a functioning government, leading to a breakdown in public order and allowing Hamas's armed wing to reconstitute itself even in the hardest-hit areas. On Sunday, Hamas touted attacks against Israeli soldiers in Rafah and near Gaza City. Israel has yet to offer a detailed plan for post-war governance in Gaza, saying only that it will maintain open-ended security control over the enclave that houses 2.3 million Palestinians. Internationally mediated talks over a ceasefire and hostage release appear to be at a standstill. Prime Minister Netanyahu has once again vowed to continue fighting until victory in memory of those killed in the war. But in Tel Aviv, hundreds of protesters stood outside military headquarters and raised candles demanding an immediate ceasefire deal to return the hostages. Netanyahu has rejected the post-war plans proposed by the United States for the Palestinian Authority, which administers parts of the Israeli-occupied West Bank, to govern Gaza with support from Arab and Muslim countries. Those plans depend on progress towards the creation of a Palestinian state, which Israel's government strictly opposes. The 7th October attack killed around 1,200 people, mostly civilians, and took another 250 hostage. Hamas terrorists still hold about 100 captives and the remains of more than 30. Israel's offensive has killed more than 35,000 Palestinians, mostly women and children, according to Gaza's health ministry. Israel says it has killed over 13,000 terrorists without providing any evidence, though. In an exclusive conversation with News9 Deputy Managing Editor Kartikeya Sharma, BJD leader and the man behind Odisha's 5T initiative, V.K. Pandyan, shares his thoughts on the constitution being a poll issue this Lok Sabha. Listen in.
Do you feel that the constitution or democracy is in danger?
No, I would not say that. Not at all. Not at all. Indian constitution and Indian democracy is what should I say? It's so strong. I don't think anybody on earth or anybody in the political system will dare to touch the constitution, or will have the wherewithal to amend the constitution's basic features. And we have a judiciary also. You can't touch the basic features of the constitution. See, this constitutional debate is also diverting the core issues of people. How many people in our villages are thinking about whether constitution is getting changed or not?